here is the plan. We are going to make this push-off table. So here's the beam. We'll just say that's the beam, okay? This push-off table is going to be 52 inches from here to here. Does that make sense? If you could see it, it would. Let's tip it just this way, just a little bit. So this is going to be 52 inches in length from here to here. All right. There'll be a 10-inch notch. This little leg here will be 10 inches. It'll be the width of the beam, a little better than the width of the beam. So that's what we'll have. This is going to be 42 inches, if that makes sense, from here to here. Why? I can reach from here to this corner about right here with just my hands without a pickaroon or a hook of any sort. So that's my thinking. There'll also be some, some angled up pieces or wings or whatever you want to call it, trough or guides or whatever. They'll be about 6 inches. Now for the pivot point, I have some tabs that I'm welding on the very end of the beam. And I'm going to sort of box it in with some steel. You'll see what I'm doing here in a minute. Uh-oh, I think we have a visitor. Who do we have right there? Are we interrupting something, Mr. Mantis? Anyway, back to the project at hand. You can watch. I'm going to have 2-inch box tubing, 1/4-inch wall. Sorry, that's not very straight. I'm gonna have a 1-inch pin going through there, and well, we'll get into this a little bit more, but that's kind of the plan. You'll see it as it comes along. The shading couldn't be any worse, could it? So that's kind of what we're gonna have as far as the push-off table. This steel right here is also going to serve as the surface for the log lift as well. The first guy I had lined up to do the sandblasting was, his preference was to have everything individual, no weldments, like complete, other than the beam. So when he couldn't do it, and I found this other guy, he had a preference of having everything welded together. Well, I knew that wasn't going to happen. When I got back home, I went ahead and I welded everything together, so I didn't get to a lot of video of anything. So I'm just showing a quick schematic of the frame of the skeleton of the push-off table. The outside pieces, the blue, those are 1.5 inches. The main ones that are coming down alongside of the red beam, the beam is represented in red, that is, those are 2-inch. And I put some cross supports and one right in front of the beam. It's a pretty stout table, probably a little overbuilt, but I don't want it to bend. These tubes right here are 2-inch, 1/4-inch wall with a pass-through hole that accepts a pivot pin, and that's represented by that green right there. And we'll just do a quick side view here to show you how it's supposed to work. The green little nub coming off of the black vertical support for the wedge, that is actually a Category 1 lift arm, like an implement, and that's what the table will be pinned to for transport. These are going to be the stops, and they'll be welded right on the side of the beam, and that's what we'll get everything lined up and make sure we know where it's welded to make it nice and level. That's the plan. And then I'm going to probably drill a hole here, weld a nut on, and that way we can adjust the height. Maybe. I might try that. I don't know if that'll work or not. So that'll be our stop. That'll make everything level. And we're going to come out 21 inches from the center. There'll also be wings. And we'll do it on both sides. And we're making it 52 inches long. Now the reason, or 42 from the pivot point. The reason I'm making it longer than I am wide is to be able to reach across if I need to. This is the whole amputee thing to make it a little easier, is I'd like to stack up a bunch of wood on the end of the push-off table and then put it into a tote. If I ever get a conveyor, it'll make life that much easier, but until then, I want to have a mass of wood down there, so I only have to walk a couple times to fill a tote. All right, let's give this a try. I'm going to try cutting some 3/16 rusty steel with the plasma, the Cut 50, and we'll see how it works. Probably catch this pallet on fire. Man, it is not one. Ooh, look at that. Hey, we're gonna try something different because that is not good. This piece is not wide enough for the 42 inch. This is only 29 inches. So what the plan is, there's a little bit of a defect here where I cut too deep. So it kind of goes like that, exaggerated. That is actually going to fall into the notched area of this tray. The tray is going to be 42 inches. This piece is 29. I'm going to cut 8 inches off of it, and that'll become the edge, or the side, the flare, whatever you want to call it, the edge of the tray. So I'm going to cut that, and then I'll weld that back on. This part right here, the defect, is going to fall in the waist area. So I'm not worried about that. The rest of this is pretty dang square off the previous sheared edge. I mean, it's close enough. This is just a push-off tray, right? So I'm pretty happy with that. I can see there's a few high spots, but I'm not going to worry about it. This is good enough. Yeah, it's still cutting pretty decent. Tip doesn't look terrible. Should have put welding gloves on. Didn't even think about that. I said that was good. It ain't cutting very good right now. I'm gonna have to switch tips. Here we go, fresh tip. See how this works. You know why it's not cutting? I got steel behind there. That ain't no good. I was cutting through 2 pieces of steel. Oh well. You'll have that on these bigger jobs. This whole push-off table was a mad dash to try to get it done, to get it to blasting. The guy originally planned on having sandblast all the parts and prime them. Didn't pull through, so I found another guy. The guy I initially had wanted all these parts separate, like these guys right here. And these are also the sides for the trough. He wanted everything separate. When he stood me up, I went and talked to the other guy, and he said, oh, I'd like them all as a one weldment. You know, it's easier for me. I'm like, oh, great. So I had a lot going on that day. I got home and worked on this. Got it pretty much welded together. I can show you some of the features it has. Here's the pivot pin hole right there. This is the slot for around the beam. And these are just miscellaneous parts that are going to go on the for the side, for the wings that come out, the trough. I don't know how. They're going to come out at about a 45-degree angle. Am I happy with the way the beam came out? It's so-so. I asked if he could get most of the spatter off, and I'm going to end up chipping this stuff off because he said, oh, I'll get 90% of it. And it's nowhere 90%. I don't know if you can see. I'll get you a little closer here. There's quite a bit of spatter there, but yeah, we'll chip that off, and I have some touch-up primer. It's black, but it'll work, and we'll get those taken care of so I have a decently smooth beam, somewhat smooth. This is the wedge pocket, the wedge support. There's some spatter there, so we got it primed, and it can sit outside now and I won't feel too bad. We have some rain weather coming. So the big push now is to get this guy in primer. I've got the caps made up for the 1.5 by 1/8 inch walled tubing. And then these are the main longitudinal. They're 2 inch with 1/4 inch wall. And they're they run the length, obviously. I had to put a seam in this because I didn't have one sheet wide enough that I felt comfortable using. These parts over here, like I said, I think I said a minute ago, they're going to be for the 45-degree wings of make a trough on this table kind of thing. So stuff doesn't roll off, that's all. Next, I'm going to use 3/8 inch bar stock. The plan is I'm going to bend them, soak them in muriatic so I can fit them in. These are going to be, what, 26 inches long at that point, with a 9-inch kicker on it, and I'll cut to fit. That's my plan. Why am I bending it first before I put it in muriatic acid? Because this thing won't fit in at 36 inches, and that's what I cut them to. They're a little long. There'll be a support. This is all backwards, I know. There'll be a support here. There'll be a support here. And, all right, I'm not sure where the other camera cut out. All right, we're gonna heat these up with a torch. Right on the line, I've got a, I don't know if that shows up very good over here. I got my makeshift bending fixture. All that piece of angle here is to hold that bolt up. It wants to drop through that hole. So it's just there to support it while I stick this piece in. That's the stop over there. We're going to heat it up on this mark. That's not the actual bend line. That's just a reference mark for heat. We're going to put it in here. I'll start once it's hot, and I'm going to bend it to this line right here. That should be close to 90 degrees. That's the plan. We'll see how it works. They're good and red. A rose butter worked great for this. I just don't feel like switching it over. Yeah, we got her good and red. She ought to bend pretty easy. Let's see what we got. That might be a little beyond. That's okay, we can straighten that out. Let's see what we got here. Stand it up, maybe you can see better that way. You know, yeah, we'll have to open her up a little bit. Well, let's get the other ones bent. I'll try to overbend them first, and then we can straighten them just by clamping them to this table and giving them a little push. This table is 1.5 inch steel plate. It's like 8 feet by 5 feet. Thing weighs, I don't know, like 1,600 pounds. It's super heavy. You can pretty much do whatever you want. Anything that a farmer would need to do, you can do on this table. I think it was a bolster plate out of some press somewhere. Yeah, see how strong these vice grip clamp things are. I think that's felt like it moved. Not enough. All right, we're gonna have to heat these up to tweak them a little. Oops. Shut the wrong thing off first. There we go, let's try that. I think that's gonna be close. Money. That's money. So that's kind of what I'm going for right there. This is gonna be the subframe, and it's gonna get welded right here. Of course, it's gonna be at an angle, but it'll be flush with the end piece here. So that's kind of what I'm going for right there. Let's try that. Yeah, I'm gonna nick this off so I don't get cut. Or impaled anyway. Oh yeah, I'm kind of liking that. We're just gonna hit this all real quick. Well, I got a place to clamp to now. I don't know how long those pads are gonna last, but so far I'm liking what I'm seeing. These are the Hercules pads that they're like in a 4-pack or a 5-pack or something like that. So yeah, I'm liking those so far. I know it's gonna be hot. I'm just trying to feel for sharpness, and that feels pretty good. Chuck Slusarchuk, the guy that designed the CGS Hawk, I helped him out and worked with him for, I don't know, a few years. He always taught me that you wanted to be able to lick any edge that you put onto an airplane. Any part that has a sharp edge, you don't want. You want to be able to lick with your tongue. I mean, you don't have to actually lick it, but that's the consistency that you wanted. He wanted to be very, very smooth and no burrs. So that's where we're at. Actually, I got a little burr on that backside. There's one. One and done. Now I'm sure 3M sells a version of this, and I am super curious how well they work, because man, this thing is pretty phenomenal. Really impressed. Because believe me, I did my fair share of grinding on this project so far, and trying to get mill scale off and paint and all this other fun stuff. This works best by far. Not sure how much, or if anything, I got on the last on this wing here. Before my battery was all puked out, I didn't notice that, but that's what I have. That's what the end product looks like. Weld on this side was a little sketchy. I ran out of gas, I ran out of wire. It was just a real goat rodeo. I tried doing it with some stick, and that didn't turn out so good, hence the grinds down there. But that's kind of what I'm looking for. A nice radius on this end. This is the discharge end. Up there is the notch where the beam will be. And here's the way I'm putting this together. I don't know if you can see, it's pretty much 90 degrees. Yeah, I can flex it a little bit. But once this is tacked together, I'm gonna go ahead and tack it to the frame, or the tray, the bottom of the tray, kind of at a 45-degree angle. If that shows up like that, I don't know. And then we're cladding it, just like that side, with this piece. And I'll put the plasma cut side down. I'm not very good at bending exactly 90 degrees where I need it to be. So what I did is I bent two pieces, and I have a seam right here in the middle. And I'll crank the amperage, grind out a bevel on this, burn that in, and I'll do that after everything's kind of tacked in. I'll just kind of grind that with a cutoff wheel. That'll be the table, and I'm telling you, this thing is probably a little heavier than it should be. Was 3/16 plate right there. Right here. That was 3/16 before it rusted and it got sanded on and that kind of stuff. So it's probably just under 3/16. Pretty heavy. I've got one of these, if you can see it down there in the cart. It's a surface conditioner. Man, I've been buying some Harbor Freight stuff. Only because it's so cost effective. I picked up that surface finisher. After I had this blasted, I didn't get it painted right away. And I got some rust on it. That thing strips it super fast. Super easy. It's a non-issue. All right, I'm gonna show you this. I don't know if you can tell, it's see some leaves blowing off the trees. I don't know if you can tell, the trees are blowing pretty good. Getting some major porosity. I'm gonna grind this back out and hit it with a stick. Probably 60-13, I think. Nice thing about switching this over to stick, right here's the lead for stick. We are going to disconnect the positive lead for the MIG lead. I'm gonna switch it to stick. It is hard doing this left-handed or one-handed. Plus I got this hood there in the way, so that doesn't help. All right, lock her in. Positive work clamp, or negative work clamp, positive stick. And yes, this is 60-13. Some of the welds are pretty decent. A lot of spatter on stuff. That's gonna show up in the paint. And then look at this thing here. It's just, I don't know, it's so windy. So like I say, some of the welds are decent. And some of them, not so. But that is the push-off table. And believe me, I got a lot of use out of those things right there. I think I'm done welding. And I'll tell you what, welding this thing has been a battle. Running out of gas, running out of wire, wind, and it's just been kind of a nightmare. Got it welded up. We're gonna wipe it down with acetone and hose it down, and we're gonna move on to the next part. Hitting it with some primer. This stuff better be good. It is not the cheapest stuff in the world. Clear. Just keep it from banging into this stuff. Gotta go up just a little bit. Small hammer, just a tap. What we need to do is figure out where this is level with the beam, and I'm going to weld my mark for my stops. Ooh, this is a miscalculation. I'm going to shorten this pin up. It doesn't need to be this long. I just figured it'd go in easier. Now that we're here, we're kind of committed. Gonna machine a bushing, but I think I'm peening this thing over enough. I think we're gonna be good. Oh, slow boat to China here. Bend. Just like that. It'll fold all the way up, and we'll have a pin in the dorsal fin that'll poke through the bottom, and that's what'll hold it in place. That's the plan.